we're speaking about the existence of ourselves in a world prior to when we're born. And that is when we were in the womb of our mother. It's a very special world there, and we were preparing there to come into this world. Similarly, as we said before, we're preparing in the womb of this world, although it's much bigger, of course, than our mother's womb, and there are many more of us. We're preparing in this world to go into the next life. But we're not conscious of that, or we should become conscious of it because we have the ability to become conscious of it. Certainly in our mother's womb, we weren't conscious at all that we were preparing to be born into a world much bigger than that small uterine world of our mother. But we developed there according to a genetic plan given to us by our mother and father. We didn't develop the things necessary there for this life through conscious effort. We didn't decide what we wanted to develop. So, for instance, in the womb of our mother, it was quite unconscious. We were quite unconscious that we had to develop eyesight and legs and arms and hearing and so on, ready for this world, because we didn't use those facilities, those organs and so on in our mother's womb. There was nothing to see, there was nothing to hear, in a sense, there was nowhere to walk, there was nothing to take hold of with our hands. And if we'd have had any sort of decision-making abilities in that womb world, we might have decided, well, why should I develop eyesight? If I'm in this world here, there's no reason to develop it. Why should I develop arms and legs? Because there's nowhere to walk, there's nothing to catch hold of, and so on. That's if we were thinking that we were just staying in that world. We would decide, if we had the decision-making facility, we would decide, I think, not to develop anything. But thank God, everything was developed in that womb world without any thought going into it from ourselves by the genetic structure from our mothers and fathers. And we were born, if we were born healthy, as able-bodied babies in this world. And so it is similar between this world and the next world. However, there's one huge difference. We have awareness in this world, and we can decide what we want to develop for the next world. Or we can decide there is no next world, therefore we needn't develop anything. All the messengers of God, all the great teachers of God, all the divine educators of God, like Krishna and Buddha and Moses and Christ and Muhammad, and we would say in this day, Bahá'í, the latest messenger of God, have come to tell us what we need to develop for the next life. But we can either choose to accept what they say, we can either choose to listen to what they're saying that we need to develop for the next life, or we can say, well, there is no next life, therefore I am not going to put any or give any attention to what the messenger of God are talking about. So Bahá'í is speaking about we must prepare for the next world, but with consciousness now. And there are several things that we have to prepare for when we go into the next life. Of course, for those that don't believe there's a next life, this is a difficulty. I'd like to address that point. If materialists are people that just believe and think that everything that's real is just accessible to our senses. So if we can see something, it exists. If we can hear it, it exists. If we taste it, it exists, and so on. But if we can't see, hear, or taste it, if it's not accessible to our senses, then to them, it's a non-existing thing. Things just don't exist. And, many people say, I'll only believe what I can see. Well, they contradict themselves so many times because you can't see wisdom, but we know it exists. It's an intellectual reality. It's a non-physical reality. Okay, a potato exists, but wisdom exists. You can catch hold of a potato. You can't catch hold of wisdom in your hand. And similarly, there are many other things that exist that we can't catch hold of or smell or taste with our senses. We have to, in actual fact, use our intellect to realize that they exist. Wisdom exists, love exists. Our intellect is an intellectual reality. It's not a physical reality. If you collected all the thoughts of the people on the earth and tried to put them in a pinhead, you couldn't, because there is no physical reality to thoughts themselves. Similarly, there is no physical or intellectual reality, there is no physical reality to our soul or our human spirit. It exists, and it exists, and it has a relationship with the physical body itself. This relationship lasts, of course, as long as the body stays alive. It says in the Bahá'í writings, the connection with the soul with the body is like the connection between the sun and a mirror. The mirror being analogous to the body, and the sun being analogous to the soul. So the soul itself is radiating life and illumination, everything that's necessary for the body to function, again, perhaps through the mental faculties and so on. But still, the body, if it ceases to exist, doesn't mean to say that the soul doesn't exist. Similarly, if a mirror ceases to exist, it doesn't mean to say that the sun doesn't exist anymore. The sun or the soul is not in the body. You can't trap something which is non-physical in anything physical. You can't put patience in a cup, for instance. It's impossible. You can't put the soul of man, which is not a physical reality, you can't put it in the body. So it can't be trapped in, it can't come into or go out of the physical body. But it has a connection with the body like the sun has with the mirror. If the mirror ceases to exist, then we say, okay, that's what we call death. But it doesn't mean to say the soul, the sun is not existing. It continues to exist. And it's that human spirit, which is like the sun shining, will continue to shine in the next world, because there is a next world. And I'd like to speak perhaps a little bit about, as I understand them, they're proofs that the next world, the non-physical world, after we physically die, exists.